Hey guys, Uncommon Ramen here. In the past, before we had technology and all the fun, GPSing and ways of, I guess, being a cartographer without actually having to go out there and do it, satellite imagery and whatnot. When we wanted to discover something, we just kind of had to go out there and do it. So today we're going to take a look at a game called Lost Expedition, which is basically that. You are in a party. This is, by the way, a game that you can play solo. I'm pretty sure you can play up to 3 people with this game, or actually maybe it's up to 4. But you can play this completely solo, and you are a party of explorers back in those days, trying to get through the jungle and find, whatever, lost cities, the Fountain of Youth, if you will, you name it. So first off, I just want to take a look at this box. It's a very small box. This one is much bigger than some of the other solo games I've looked at, like One Deck Dungeon or Pocket Mars or even Pocket Imperium. But it is still very small, and it's still something that you could take in your luggage, especially small luggage, with no real problem. It's a very thin game too. So let's take a look inside. It opens like this. It does not open up down. It opens to the side, which I thought was really cool. Take a look inside the rule book. So each of the cards that you'll see in here are going to have a whole bunch of symbols and text boxes and a whole bunch of other stuff on there. And each of those things is kind of different situations that happened with each encounter that you have. And you're trying to get through all of these encounters while making it steadily through a path of 7 cards. And I think that varies based on the number of players, but in a solo game, it's 7 cards. And you need to do that without losing every member in your party. So unlike a lot of solo games where if at least one person dies, that's kind of it, this one, pretty much everybody in your party except for the last person can die. And more importantly, if that last person arrives at said location with only 1 HP, that still counts as a victory. So you need to learn how to utilize all of your resources, including bodies and health. And it seems like a really dark way of looking at it, but the reality is these were way back when they didn't use, or they didn't have the use of technology that would allow them to, I guess, traverse this terrain easier. And so it wasn't uncommon for these expeditions to just disappear. Take a look at some of these cards here. We've got our player aid, which takes the symbols that you'll see and creates a chart to see how they are used. So this basically, if they are solid, you will gain those symbols, and if they are empty, you will lose or have to lose those symbols. And then on the back side of the card, it tells you what the other remaining symbols are. So skipping, swapping, removing, adding, advancing, and death. Again, death is very common in this game. So be ready for it. Each time you play, you're going to want one character that represents each of the different symbol types that you can have. So I think it is up to 3. And each of these people will be able to kind of add that symbol at least once in the game. There's quite a few different characters that can go along in this. These are your pathway cards, and they will form the path as you play. Maybe it's 9. 1, 2... Oh, it is 9. Okay, in the solo game, you're playing 9. Depending on the number of players, I think if you're playing max players, you have to go 9 spots. But if you're playing the solo game, or if you're playing less players, so if you're playing 2 or 3, Let me just make sure I'm right on that one. 2 to 5 players. So you can play up to 5 people. If you're playing 5, you have 9 of these spots, and as you lose players, you'll take 1 out unless you're playing solo, in which case you have to do all 9. It's quite the trek, but it is definitely... by the time you get through to this last section where the lost city is, you will feel like it was a trek, like it was a definite expedition. And you're going to be hoping that the cards that drop in your favor. The next set of things we are going to look at are some player pawns, as well as a expedition leader token, a morning and evening token. So these are the player pawns. Next up are all the tokens. So I'm just going to dump the tokens out here. They didn't really give a super good storage solution for the tokens. So basically, the tokens here help keep track of health, food, and ammunition. Food and ammunition is important. When I was playing, the first time I played, I really did not value ammunition, and I died very quickly. I learned in subsequent games to be sparing with your ammunition because it is very hard to find ammunition, whereas food, like this, is actually relatively simple to find. So when you have a choice between spending food and ammunition, it's almost always best to spend the food unless it's going to cause death. Of course, you have your HP tokens. And then last but not least, you have a whole mess of cards with a whole bunch of things that happen here. So at the top, you have all these banners. And these banners, I believe, unless they are a specific type, you get to choose what happens and basically gain whatever it is that you would prefer. So red banners and yellow banners have to happen, whereas blue banners are optional. Okay, so you have to do red banners and yellow banners. Now, with red banners, you only choose a single red box to have happen. The other one is ignored, or other multiples are ignored. Whereas the yellow ones, usually there's only one yellow one. I might be wrong on that, but yellow ones, you have to do all of them. So if you took a look at this card right here, you would have to do one of these 2 actions, which is to spend a food, add a card to the events, and to explore further on the map tiles, which is right here, or spend a food and a compass to move on the map tile again, or to move on the map tile. And then your bottom one, this is an optional action. You can spend a leaf, which I believe is nature or something to that effect. It is jungle. Okay, just called jungle. So if you spend a jungle, you can swap the places of 2 cards and then swap the places of 2 cards again. And then this was the rapids, right? And so there's a benefit to swapping cards because when the cards come out, the events will come out in a specific order, depending on whether it's morning or evening. In morning, they come out, I believe, in numerical order. In evening, they come out in a specific pattern. So you don't have a choice of how you encounter them. So this swapping ability helps you kind of mitigate what could possibly happen to you. And each card is going to be like this. Like, for instance, this yellow banner, you have to do it. You have to swap the places of 2 cards. And then you have to take one of these red banners, which is either to lose ammo, lose health, or lose camping. So in this case, aside from the swapping, which isn't always good, none of this is good. These red banners suck. Here's another one where you have to do it. You lose a food, but you get a compass and a jungle. So on and so forth. They're going to come out, I believe, in 6. So you're going to be facing 6 of these every evening and 6 of these every morning until you reach your final destination. And as you play, when you start seeing these symbols, you're going to rejoice. Yes, you're going to lose 2 health, but you get to skip a card and you get to move on in the path. And since you have to do that 9 times to reach the end over here, these cards, as they start coming up, you're going to love. The earlier they are, the better, because obviously you have more health, more food, more ammo. But as they come in the later parts of the campaign, you're going to be very happy. This one says you gain a food, or you skip a card, or you gain a compass and a nature, or a jungle. So this one, even though it has 3 red tags, these are great tags. This is a card that you'd want to encounter. This one is another one that just sucks. This is another great one. Abandoned camp, you either get 2 ammunition or compass, jungle, and a campsite. And the compass is navigating. So this one's great. This one is also potentially great. You lose a ammunition, but you get 2 food. Or you could take the option of adding 2 more of these cards to your current trek, which would really just, unless you were doing phenomenally well, you don't want to do that. This is another one where if you don't have the navigation to spend to keep trekking, you get saddled with this really bad card, which is basically add 2 cards but gain a camping and skip a card. So in essence, you're gaining a card. It's still, I don't like the idea of gaining. In this game, whenever I have to add another card, it's always bad. Here's another one where you lose a compass, but you gain a trek. Lose a compass, 2 food. Lose a jungle, 2 food. Or gain health. Super good. Gaining health and gaining ammunition in this game are probably the 2 hardest things to do. So, this is great. Gain a health for loss of a food. Cool. Especially when you lose a health to get 2 food, which is optional. Electric eels, you don't have to do that part, but you do have to do this part where you add a card. Right here, swarm, we have lose a camping or lose a health. I wonder if I can get the whole card. See, these cards are massive. This tribe is not nearly as nice as the other tribe. This one, you lose a food to get some camping, or you lose an ammunition to swap 2 cards. Otherwise, you just lose 2 health. Poisonous frogs. Bushmaster. So there's lots of ways for you to lose ammo. Not a whole lot of ways to gain ammo. So this is another really crazy one. If you have a compass, a navigation, you can advance in the pathway. If you don't have a navigation, but you still want to advance, you can potentially kill one of your players, one of your characters that you have available to advance. And sometimes, like I said, especially if this advancement is the last advancement you need to get to the 9th card, aka the city, I would do it. If I had extra characters, I would gladly sacrifice one of those characters to get to the last part, just so I didn't have to add another card or potentially face even more dangerous things that are in that hike for that particular time. Here's another one where if you have nature or ammo, you could get some food. You could also end up losing food just by not facing it. Peccary. Spoiled supplies. Nobody likes maggots. You lose food. That's it. It's still pretty terrible. Here's a good one. If you have the jungle, you can advance. Stuff like that. You're noticing right here as we go through these, there isn't a whole lot of ammo gaining. I think we've had 2 areas where we gained some ammo. And you start with a finite amount of ammo, and it's not a whole lot. So Here's a great way to gain some health. More ability to trek. Almost always when you're trekking, you're going to lose something. Here's another, okay, so deserted outpost, abandoned camp. You get some ammo if you need it. More often than not, when I get to these places, though, I have such low health that I usually take the health or the camping, because camping is always great, too. To trek, add another card. This guy for 2 food will get you ahead a little bit, or he'll just kill you. I mean, it's your choice. Anaconda. You'd think for a big snake like that you'd get more food, but same here. You'd think you get more food. This one is like, you're either going to kill it or you're going to get mauled in some way. It's just never good. Here's a nice one. Optionally, I think it's optional, yeah. Optionally, you could spend a compass to go further and spend a bullet to get more food. Didn't have really any major downsides. And like I said, without technology, without the million things that we have available to us to help keep us safe, it's just dangerous to trek into a jungle, an uncharted jungle, no less. With very little knowledge of the things around you, and expect to come out unscathed, and for that matter, to come out with all of your party still alive. And like I said, a lot of these expeditions were simply lost. They vanished without a trace. Of course, there were cannibals to deal with too. Some bats. Get a fever out there and you don't have the right supplies, that's it. The wildlife out there could kill you. Falling could kill you. You just never know. That is Lost Expedition. Your chance to experience what it would be like to go out there with almost no technology and no idea what you're doing, and try to make it to these lost civilizations that in almost every case didn't have anything of real financial gain. Maybe a little bit of fame, but at what cost was that fame? Anyway, it is a game that you can play solo. It is extremely challenging. I've played it multiple times and I've won a single game. You learn every time you play a little bit more about how to place these cards when they come out. When you get swap cards, you learn a little bit more about how to divvy up your health, and when it's time to let go of one of your characters, and basically how best to quickly get to where you need to get. And that is it, folks. If you liked the video, go ahead and like and subscribe, and I'm always looking forward to your comments. And until next time, guys, peace.